so proudly we hailed, and the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the path.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Freedom Network. I'm Gary right here, your host. Once again, my chair feels low. It was a little low. How's everybody doing out there? Welcome back. Here we go. Freedom Network. We're live, obviously. Phone calls and emails certainly available to you. I want to welcome you to the show. We get the group on Facebook. You're more than welcome to join. Just send me an email and I'll send you a link. Seems to be the easiest way to do that. We got a busy night tonight. Emails are already popped, a couple of emails. We haven't even started the show yet. Thank you very much. We'll get to them. I think there's some applicable things there. Tonight we will have in studio with us the Renew Massachusetts Coalition. We'll have Chanel with us from this group. We're going to find out what they're all about. We're going to find out together what they're all about. You've seen them on Facebook probably. You've seen them out there. They're making some noise, and we wanted to know what was going on with them. So we're going to talk some politics with her in just a short amount of time. Now, I do know there was a town meeting here yesterday. We'll talk about that definitely next week for sure. I've got some information and some things I'd like to talk about with it, and I'm sure you do too. We've had a lot of calls for the government can once again. It seems to be the most requested clip we've ever played on the Freedom Network. So while we get Chanel in here, we'll play it for you, and then we'll bring her right on in. That'll come up in just a few minutes. But I do got two topics that I just want to kind of set my record straight on. A lot of emailing back and forth and a lot of Facebook talk. First, about free speech. Yes, so I got a couple of articles here. But first about free speech. And there's obviously many of our political people are well aware that there is a free speech issue going on with Ann Coulter not speaking at a college. Now, this is my feeling on it, okay? But beyond my feeling, it's not an interpretation. It's what I believe to be reality. It's not a free speech issue. It just simply isn't. It's not a constitutional crisis. She doesn't have a right via the Constitution. And we all love to pull out the Constitution, right? And we're going to talk about that for a minute before we bring Chanel in. We all like to pull it out, but it's got to be consistent, okay? Now, freedom of speech, she can be invited, she can be uninvited. There's no problem there. There just really and truly is not. Now, I'm not hostile to Ann. In fact, I find her very entertaining, and I probably agree with, 75% of her politics. I don't agree with everything she says, but you know me, I don't agree with anything anybody says. That's fine. That's how it goes. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to bend on what's right, because I think maybe she's got a good message and that kind of stuff. Nor do I think that because I'd love to see a conservative-minded person speak in a place where maybe they don't normally do so, that I would try to link the Constitution into this situation. People seem to think that they just have rights that don't exist. We see this usually from the left. Today, I'm calling out the right a little bit on that. I think that you're dead wrong, and I'll tell you exactly why. Freedom of speech does not guarantee anybody a platform. It doesn't. It simply guarantees you the ability to speak and say what you want in public situations, quasi-private. I can say what I want. This station's a great example of where there are exceptions to the rule. You're a resident, you have a show, you do your thing. They can't really tell you can't. So that would be an area if they said, Gary, you can't have the Freedom Network here anymore. I could then challenge that. But not based on free speech, based on the way that the contracts are set up and the way that everything is made to have these local stations available. So when you see a protest against a company, let's say it's a union protest, right? Where are those people? Are they protesting in front of the front door to the factory? No, they're not allowed to. Are they being denied free speech? No, they're not being denied free speech. They're picketing at the entrance, at the gate, or at the street corner. That's where they are. People get upset because she can't speak, and then they want to call in free speech. To me, it's just a little misguided. Now, those that are threatening violence on the other end are equally, in my opinion, as misguided, because you can't do that either, and that's not your right to do so. Now, a college can invite somebody to speak, and if people are upset about it, they can protest it, and all those kind of things really fall under what the guidelines of the college are, not the Constitution. The Constitution does not give me a right, for example, to come into, say, your place of business and protest whatever. You pick something. Okay, I want to talk about, I'm going to talk about guns for a minute before we bring Chanel on, so we'll say that. I want to talk about guns in your place of business. And I'm going to have some signs and a couple of cards, and I'm going to set shop up right here. You can't do that. That's not your right to do it. The Constitution doesn't say that you have a right to do that. So I say, Ann, no, you don't have a right to do it. To her supporters, I say, yeah, it'd be nice to see her speak there. I'd like to see that more conservative message go out there more and more and more, but I'm not going to allow myself to use the Constitution to warp something so that my side can speak. What does that make you? That makes you into that party slavery kind of thing that we talk about here all the time. That's my take on that. All right. A knife attack happens, right? Where are all the people who come out and want to ban guns when someone shoots somebody? Where are they? I mean, we saw news coverage on it, but I didn't see protesters. I didn't see press conferences. I didn't see the usual cast of leftist characters from Elizabeth Warren all the way out to California, where so many crazy, wild leftists exist in our government. I just didn't see them. I didn't see any call to ban knives. Unless I missed it. I mean, it was treated in the media as a sad situation, and the person was treated as an unhinged person. There was never any question about should anyone be able to obtain a knife. Just didn't happen. But he indiscriminately was stabbing people, right? I don't understand why gun incidents don't get reported with the same basic ideals built within the story. I don't understand it. Well, of course I understand it. Don't you understand it? Oh, folks, it's easy because there's an agenda. There is a clear agenda to limit your ability to own a gun. Don't believe that there isn't, okay? Don't buy into the you-know-what, because that's what it is. It's feel-good stuff. Now, people believe this because they've been, conditioned to believe that this is the right path to go because, again, we don't have a media. We have propaganda machines, all from Fox all the way to MSNBC and all points in between. It's all propaganda. Doesn't really matter. You go to Breitbart, you can go to whoever you want. It doesn't matter. We just don't have media. It's gone. So forget about it. You don't have any more media. But you should have an ability to think paradoxically and be able to, truly hold ideas within your head and compare and contrast and come to a conclusion that's not based on somebody's party or somebody's usual agreement that you may have. When you're talking politics, to me, it's pretty cut and dry. Either I agree or I don't. I never think, well, it's a Republican, so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Oh, it's a Democrat, but they're a pretty conservative Democrat, so I don't want to get on their stuff. No, it's an issue-by-issue game with me. And they do want them all gone. The extreme want them all gone. And their foot soldiers, who are the moderate gun control people, are the unknowing, they're very willing, they're unknowingly really selling everybody out. And they think they're doing a good thing, which makes them feel good. People like to feel good, and they prey on that kind of stuff. So, we've talked about this before, folks, and I'm just gonna give you my 90 seconds on it, and then we're gonna bring Chanel in here. That's what we're gonna do. But gun rights are not a states' rights issue. No, they're not. They're a federally guaranteed right. That's what they are. States cannot impose blockage of any rights protected in the Constitution. They're not allowed to do so. Period. And imagine a state saying that we're not going to have any more due process. And we're not going to actually elect 2 senators. We're going to elect 3. And we're going to, what else can we do? Well, yeah, we'll get rid of freedom of speech and freedom of the press. No more freedom of the press. We're going to shut down the press. No more assembling. No more coming down to the common and having your protests and stuff. No, we're not going to allow that anymore either. Would you stand for that? Of course you wouldn't. You'd be up in arms over it. So why do you stand for it with guns? You know the statistics on guns, right? And I've said this before to my own family. If, God forbid, someone guns me down, never use me as an example to limit other people's rights. It's disgusting the way that we saw Obama bringing dead kids' parents onto a stage to get empathy, to do what? To ban guns. You run the numbers, and I'll do it for you anytime. I just don't have time tonight. You run those numbers, and let me tell you something. You're going to find that your chances of really getting killed by a gun are not that high. And it is a price that you will have to pay for the freedoms that you want to enjoy. Let's put it real simple. No town has a right to decide if the Constitution is going to be allowed to be in effect, no matter what any court says. Madison simply said in the Constitution, legal, lawful, of sound mind can own a gun. There should be one license to validate that. And why people say to me, Gary, why do you think there should be a license? Why do you need a license to exercise a right? Well, I'll go back to Madison and say, this was the intent. I'm not going to interpret what he said. He didn't say that everyone should just have a gun. He didn't say that no one should have a gun. He said what he said. Legal, lawful, sound mind. His words, not mine. I don't need to interpret that. I can just read it and understand what he meant. So what does that really mean? It means one federal license that's good in all 50 states. That's something Trump is trying to do now, and I support him 110%. But it shouldn't be that the state gives you the okay to have a gun. It should be that you have the okay to have a gun. The state can't block it. Remember, the Constitution is a rule book for the government, not for you, for them. It's actually there to ensure that it's not what it is right now. We just don't follow it anymore. So a federal license, it's 2017, we have the ability to see if people are legal, don't we? We certainly do. We have the ability to see if people are lawful, don't we? Yes, we certainly do. And if they're, obviously not mentally impaired. And we certainly have a plenty of information about the average American in the government's hands. If someone is mentally impaired in a way that could be hazardous for them to own a firearm, I'm going to stick with Madison and I'll say that they shouldn't own a firearm. It's simple. It shouldn't be, a whole long drawn-out process, a maximum 24 hours. Link the thing together. We spend more money in this country on stupid you-know-what that I think we could put a few bucks into a system that we would be able to tell with maybe 95 to 99% certainty, which, remember, folks, that's high in a free society for anything that you think you're guaranteed. Safety is a relative term when you're talking about freedom, but and I think it should come with a appeals process. So if you are denied, you have the right to appeal that. The Second Amendment is the one that keeps you free. It's the one that keeps you going. So there is no, in my opinion, states' rights issue here. We happen to live in a great town where you can get a gun license. There are towns you can't. How is that constitutional? It makes absolutely positively no sense to me. None whatsoever. It's a very important thing. So we'll bring the wonders of the government can, I think, up onto the old screen for you. When we come back, we're going to have Chanel with us from Renew Mass Coalition. We're going to find out what she's all about, what this group is all about, what they're trying to do, and we'll learn together. And if you have any comments or anything like that, certainly you can email or call them in. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, gather round. I'm here to give you anything you like. You want free college, energy, mortgages, whatever you like. You have come to the right place. Why? I'll tell you why. Who can take your money?
Who can take your money?
With a twinkle in their eye.
A twinkle in their eye.
Take it all away and give it to some other guy. The government.
The government.
The government can.
The government can.
And who can tax the sunrise?
Who can tax the
Who
sunrise?
can tax the trees?
Who can tax the trees?
Let you run a business and collect up all the fees. The government,
The government.
oh, the government can.
The government can.
And the government can, 'cause they mix it up with lies and make it all taste good.
Make it all taste good.
The government takes everything we make to pay for all of their solutions. Healthcare, climate change, pollution. Throw away the Constitution. And who can give a bailout?
Who can give a bailout?
Tell us to behave.
Tell us to behave.
And make the founding fathers roll over in the grave. The government,
The government.
oh, the government can.
The government can.
And the government can, 'cause they mix it up with lies and make it all taste good.
Make it all taste good.
The government takes everything we make. They're power hungry and malicious. Their economics are fictitious. Soon we'll have to eat our dishes.
Delicious.
Oh, who can be a failure
Can be a failure
in so many ways?
in so many ways.
And instead of getting fired, hey, we'll give ourselves a raise. The government,
The government.
oh, the government can.
The government can.
And the government can, 'cause they mix it up with lies and make it all taste good.
Make it all taste good.
And your Uncle Sam can, 'cause he mixes it with lies and makes it all taste good.
Makes it all taste good.
And it feels so good, 'cause the government says I should.
Always a favorite on the Freedom Network, and you're going to be a favorite on the Freedom Network, I'm sure,
hope
as well.
so.
Chanel, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Very good. Pleasure to meet
Great,
you, and welcome
good.
to the Freedom Network. We're very glad that you're able to come.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, Renew, let's just jump right in. Who are you? Tell everybody who you are.
I'm Chanel. I'm from Shrewsbury. I'm the executive director of the Renew Massachusetts Coalition, which is a grassroots advocacy group. We're constitutional conservatives. We're focused on action rather than like meetings like you see tea parties frequently have. We're interested in getting everyday citizens more involved in the political process, whether it's encouraging them to call their legislators or to sign petitions or to get more involved and go door to door.
Sure.
Support candidates. We're interested in making people get off their sofas and get involved in the process.
Yes,
So,
yes. You know,
Yeah.
and it's like my good friend Alan Rodney Waters, who is running against Elizabeth Warren.
Yes.
Great guy.
Yeah, he's been making the rounds. He's been getting
He's
out
trying.
there.
Yeah, he's trying, and we keep trying to help him out. But yeah, that's a very noble thing.
Yeah, I hear
to
his
do.
name more and more. I hear good things from people. I think he's definitely doing a good job.
Solid guy.
Trying to,
He's a solid
trying to get
guy.
the word out.
They
So,
know him. The Freedom Network people know him, but we got to get more people to know him. So before that, what were you doing?
Let's see. Before that, I was involved in a number of campaigns. I kind of got my start, as a volunteer and then professionally. The only one that people probably would have heard of is when former U.S. Senator Scott Brown was a state representative.
Yep.
I worked on his special election campaign for state senate.
Okay.
It's kind of a funny story. I was working in the legislature at the time as a policy analyst, and I told my parents, "Oh, I'm gonna leave my job and I'm gonna go work on this campaign." And they said, "Well, wait a second. So win or lose, in 4 months this is going to be over and you're going to be without a job? That doesn't seem, very reasonable, Chanel. I mean, nobody's going to know who this Scott Brown fellow is."
Sure.
And Scott has certainly proved my parents wrong. But I kind of joke about that. But they've been very supportive. So lots of campaigns and then the coalition. And so
Great.
we're focused on a number of different issues. Right now, one big thing is to repeal the bathroom and locker room law. We're also opposed to Senator Jamie Eldridge's bill, Safe Communities Act, which would make Massachusetts a sanctuary state. A number of other issues that have come up lately. We're opposed to the outrageous pay raises that the legislators voted themselves. So we've talked a lot about that. I really think, that the fiscal situation that we're in right now, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for them to give themselves enormous pay raises. They had just
No.
had
Sure.
a 4% pay raise.
Sure.
And then they decided they needed a 50% pay raise.
So-
So I really think that is going to create a good environment for candidates to run next
Yeah,
year. So
yeah.
one of the things that I'm doing right now is going around and talking to a lot of people about challenging their legislators who voted for that pay raise. Some of them, it was the first vote that they ever took.
Imagine that.
You
Your
know,
first
they-
vote.
First
Your
vote.
First vote.
Yeah. So what's your first act in your new job? Oh, I gave myself
I
a
gave
raise.
myself a raise. Well, I guess
And-
we don't elect stupid people. We
I-
just elect the wrong smart
and,
people.
and I think a lot of them, wouldn't have chosen that to be their first vote, but the Democratic Party is so beholden to the Speaker and the Senate President that they basically go along with whatever it is that they say.
So what happened to the state party?
What
happened to it?
Oh.
It seems to me like it was a locked and loaded, predetermined. This is what we want, so we can have control. To me, that's what it looked like from the outside. What happened to when Baker got elected? It seemed like there was a
Well,
whole
I
lot
think
of turmoil.
I think that there are kind of two competing groups of people that are involved in the Republican Party.
Yeah.
There's one group of people that feels like the fortunes of the party will rise and fall with the governor, and they try to push the party to make all the decisions based on
Mm-hmm.
what is good for Charlie Baker. And this is not a new situation. And
Right.
at one point it was what's good for Mitt Romney, or what's good
Right.
for
Yeah.
Scott Brown, or what's good for whoever it is the big dog that's the
Sure.
the person at the head of the ticket. And I kind of take a competing view. I think that there are a lot of Republicans out there that really want to think long term, that want to say, hey, it's just as important that we do what's good for the folks in the legislature, or what's good for, Lou Evangelitis, the sheriff, and what's good for, Republican activists, and what's good for the people that hold the signs and make the phone calls. And, we as a party, need to be able to grow beyond serving the interests of one person. And I think that there's, like I said, two competing visions there. And, some folks, they work for the governor. And so it's they're gonna go with,
The whole thing seems a little bit off to me when you get
So-
into that kind of stuff. When you
And they're
you
good
see the-
people.
Oh,
I'm
I'm sure.
not
I'm sure
that
they are, but they're
um,
solidifying power is really what it looks like.
And it is what it is. And I think, it's important to always I like to make sure that I make it known that I disagree with that perspective, that it should be about one person, regardless of who that person is.
Sure.
Might be somebody I really like.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's not a way to grow the party long term. You need
No.
to focus on, growing your numbers in the legislature. I think we have, we've had some missed opportunities with that, and we need to put more time and effort and resources into calling the
Yes.
Democrats out on all these things, and putting my party hat on. But I would agree with what you said earlier. It's not just about party. There are there are Democrats that vote the right way sometimes, and I believe in giving them credit for that. So
No, you do find some, and a lot of your conservative Democrats are now unenrolled
Right.
in Massachusetts, but they're Democrats. That's what they are. But they vote for a Charlie Baker, or they'll vote for a Lou, or they'll do that
They
kind
vote
of
for the
stuff.
person, and they're looking.
Yeah.
I think they're looking for folks that aren't going to take their first act and raise their own pay, and so I think it'll be, a
That's
good
just amazing.
situation.
I mean,
for,
is that not
for-
insane?
It's insane, and I can't get over how it happened. So I keep coming back to it. But some of them, Senator Harriet Chandler here in the other part of Worcester, not this Senate district, but the
Right.
other, the first Worcester district. Her pay is going up by some outrageous number. It's like 76% from. It's got it written down here. She went from $90,000 to $157,000 for her pay.
Wow.
That's just incredible to me, and I would bet she's probably retiring, and that was to
Yeah.
bump her pension up.
What's so now?
And I got to give your senator here, who's also my senator in Shrewsbury, Michael Moore, some credit, because He voted no, and he is not taking the money. He's got a pension, a state pension from, his prior days, so he
sure.
probably figures, oh, I don't need
Sure.
any more
I'm sure
compensation
he's got- yeah,
issues
he's got
popping
plenty- no,
up.
he's-
Pops up every time he
He's
runs.
far
so-
from the top of my least favorite politicians. Let's
so,
put it that
but
way.
I do give
he's,
him credit where credit's due, and that
Yeah, you
he
gotta.
didn't vote to go along with this.
So you guys are going after those. The sanctuary state thing to me is just insane. It's absolutely positively insane. I do not understand for 1 second how that can even happen. I don't get it.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's-
how can that?
I think that the concern from my perspective is the left is fired up, and you see it in all these things that are going on all across the country. We were talking
Yes.
about Ann Coulter earlier,
Yes.
and just the sort of idea that they can just disrupt things. They can be violent. They are energized. They are.
Yes.
And some of that energy here in Massachusetts is being, you see it in the rallies that are held in Boston and other parts of the state, but you also see it they've kind of been going town by town, trying to pass, sanctuary cities policies in a number of towns. They were successful in Newton. They failed yesterday in Rockport, which was great. And a lot of people are fighting this all over the state, but I think what they're trying to do is create an environment where they can then pressure legislators into making Massachusetts a sanctuary state, which would be a terrible idea for countless reasons. Everything
I
from
wouldn't even
the
know where to
potential,
begin, yeah.
the potential loss of federal funds from, the Trump administration is basically saying jurisdictions that do this are going to lose federal funds.
Which on that end, I'll tell you, I will say that I completely disagree with that as well. I disagree with both. I disagree with sanctuary cities, sanctuary states, and I don't think that that's the right way to go at all.
It's trying to be a hammer on,
I'm
on
not
the places to get them to reverse
I don't
the
like
policy.
to see the government, the feds,
Yeah.
ever. First of all, it's our money, so don't take my money and then
And then
tell me
fail
you're
to-
gonna withhold it because I do something that you don't like. I would take the politicians.
Well, that's all a government. to be
I would-
honest.
I would-
It's
I would-
quite a bit of it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, what I do, Chanel, is I take the government entities that enact these things and say that you're absolutely in contempt of the power structure of the Constitution.
Arrest
You
the
don't-
politicians.
Absolutely. That's what you do. You take the politicians and you tell them you can't do it.
We
You
had an
hold them in
event,
contempt until they reverse what they've
We had
done.
an event with Sheriff Tom Hodgson from Bristol County
Mm-hmm.
a couple months back, and he actually testified before Congress on immigration and how it was the biggest challenge that we face. And one of the things that he called for was for officials that were passing these policies to be, the same kind of thing that you're talking about,
Yeah.
particularly with regard to Michelle Dubois, the state representative out of Brockton. Are you familiar with this
Yes,
story?
yes.
Who, oh my God, my Lord.
Yeah, I cannot get my head around the withholding of the money. I can't get my head around the punitiveness to the town, or the city, or the state, because let's face it, Trump lost Massachusetts by what, a little over 900,000 votes? It was close to 1 million votes, I think. So, but to have that kind of a swing, and what my point is that there's a lot of people that voted for him. So his threats, and that's what they are. If you voted for Trump, he's threatening you. You can't control what your town is going to do. You can't control it today. You can go vote them out tomorrow, but you're going to lose funds on that end. So that's why I don't really like that. The pay increases, again, I agree with you, and I agree with you on sanctuary states and cities, and that's just foolishness. It's foolishness. I mean, I would be absolutely okay with the government paying if a family was here. I mean, the laws are what the laws are. So today, you're born in the United States. It doesn't matter if your parents
Right.
are illegal, you're a citizen.
Yep.
So if that citizen of the United States is 7 years old and wants to go with the parents to wherever they came from, then I would have no problem even paying for that. I really wouldn't. I think that would be a far better way to spend some money. We can't, in my opinion, we can't let illegal aliens, and I'm not going to use undocumented. I don't use that word because it's not what, I guess it is what they are, but it's a softening term. And they
safe zone
shouldn't.
crowd.
Yeah, they just.
Yeah.
I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to break up their.
No,
I don't want
no, I
to do
don't-
that. But
I think everybody really feels for the situation that
Yeah.
we have here. And I think one of the good things that's happened is fewer people are crossing the border now.
Yeah.
There's the statistics are in, and since the president, right after he got elected, the number of people opting to try and come here has declined. And so I think simply with enforcement of the existing laws, with the new Attorney General Jeff Sessions,
Sure.
and kind of leaving in place the programs that the Obama administration never really did anything with, and allowing law enforcement to collaborate with ICE to really go after some of these more violent gangs and things like that. I think you'll start to see the problem decrease quite a
Absolutely.
bit.
Yeah, I mean,
and I think you've seen the Trump administration has said, they're not going to go after the dreamers. They're not interested in people that are, most of the people that are here that are not breaking the law. And I think they're kind of taking a position that is good, and that they are going to go after some criminals that the Obama administration
Sure.
didn't go after. I think in particular they mentioned people who are engaging in domestic violence, people that have DUIs, who are
a
kind
good
of
place to
terrorizing
start.
their neighborhoods. And hey, if the average citizen gets a DUI, they get in trouble. What do you do if somebody already doesn't have a license and they're driving illegally? It's not, and they have a DUI all of a sudden. Well, what's the penalty? You can't take away their license.
Look, if you're
And
the,
so-
it depends. If you're the president's uncle, it's okay. You don't have to worry about that, right? We didn't have to worry about that. All right,
Yeah.
you talked about the bathroom law. This is an interesting one to me. This is different to me than any kind of gay rights issue. To me, it is. I have a little bit of a tough time with the whole bill, the way it's written, the way they did it.
Oh, it's pretty bad.
Because
happy to go through all the
well, I mean, the
for your audience.
I'm going to let you do just that. The reality is that if you are dressed and presenting, if you're a man and you're presenting as a woman, do you think that they don't now use the women's room? Of course they do,
of course
but
they do.
people don't know these things. So I think
Right.
that we shouldn't be encouraging situations where people get into bad situations because
It's a
people
law
hate them and all that.
was
You
in
can't
search
have.
was in search of a problem, a solution in search of a problem, really.
Yeah, I don't know that there was a big issue. I don't think that a guy that wants to be, and you know me, you want to be a girl, go be a girl. I couldn't care. I don't really care what you want to do. That's not my issue.
There's a couple of things that kind of really, number one, the practicalities of this are terrible. In terms of, you basically have special rights for men and women's spaces, whether it's locker rooms, gender identity, that it prohibits discrimination on the basis of gender identity. Well, what does that mean? It's your sincerely held belief as to what your gender is on any given day, regardless of your appearance, regardless of your anatomy. It's fluid. It can change. One day you're a guy, one day you are a girl. It's very hard to tell who's sincere, who's abusing the law. And it's in all public accommodations. So stores, restaurants, locker rooms. You can't have a Curves gym anymore. I mean, the reason that women would theoretically go to a Curves gym is because they don't want to exercise with men. And suddenly you can have a guy that comes on in, and there's nothing that those women can do about it, and there's nothing that store owner can do about it. And now suddenly those women were coming there for a particular experience that they're not getting anymore, and so that business is out of luck, and that business owner has no ability to tell that person no. It's the same thing if you have a daycare. You can't suddenly say no. You can't be in my restroom. That business owners don't have that right anymore. And I look at the policy, and I think about Target, and you have a retail establishment that got into all kinds of trouble for openly adopting this sort of policy and basically saying we're going to let whoever enter our dressing rooms and we're not going to care. They chose that policy voluntarily. That's on them, and over 1.5 million people decided to boycott. And that's their right too.
Well,
I think that's how capitalism works. The customers don't like it. They take their business elsewhere. And, it's about they can choose what they want. We, in Massachusetts, we don't have that right anymore. Businesses can't choose to have a policy. They have to have that policy, and customers can't choose to go somewhere else. So, this legislation really isn't about greater rights. It's about taking rights from business owners and parents and little girls away. Their right to safety and their right to privacy and their right to modesty. And so I'll give a shameless plug. We're on the ballot to repeal the law. It's www.keepmasafe.org to check us out online. You can like our Facebook page. You can sign up for emails, things of that nature. But it's really an outrageous policy.
And you're
in
looking
terms of
you're looking to repeal.
Yes.
So is this like so? Let me ask you that. I guess it becomes a very interesting issue to me. It's just an interesting issue. I don't want, if I had a daughter, some guy to be able to follow her in the bathroom when she's 12 years old. I don't
Especially
want that
since,
to happen.
that is a right that some, guy theoretically who's asserting a gender identity claim has. You don't have the right to go in the bathroom with her as somebody that's not presenting with the gender.
That's what I was
why
gonna
does
say.
some
How- right,
guy
how
have
don't-
more rights than you as a parent trying to protect his daughter? That was actually an amendment to the legislation that got shot down.
So what's the answer then? What is the answer to?
From my perspective, the law was fine before they started making changes to it.
So what was the law on bathrooms?
it's-
Was there an actual law
there-
on? I mean,
You
this
can
is,
have
we're
sex
insane,
segregated
folks. that we have.
bathrooms. People use the ones that they choose. No one's allowed to kick anyone. No one's allowed to mistreat anyone. You're not allowed to. Before this law passed, no one was allowed to say to harass anybody in a locker room. However, if if I'm at the gym and there's some guy who's standing there loitering, looking at me, the owner of the gym before could come in and say, "Hey, dude, you're creepy. I need you to leave this locker room." As a business owner, that was the business owner's right for his own establishment. Now, basically, if women are uncomfortable with a guy being there, that's on them. Men are they're the only recourse they have, and our wonderful attorney general wrote the regulations related to this, so you can see where don't get me started on Mara Healy and going down that. There'll be an entire discussion of the rest of the
So
show
what-
about guns
what is
and what she's done there in addition to all of this. But essentially, the standard is you can look all day, you can't touch. So little girls who are trying to teach about, how to be safe in situations with men, how to set boundaries, how to, know what's inappropriate, suddenly we have to also explain to them, well, unless it's a guy who thinks he's a girl, then he can stare at you all day. And what do you say to those little girls? How do you teach them to set boundaries? What do you do about people that have been sexually abused that really don't want that person in the
Just
shower
to me, it
with
just
them?
seems that this is in locker rooms and schools. So let me ask you a
Yeah.
question: what is the follow-up in? Because I have to, it was like when they were doing gay marriage. Personally, to me,
I
there's
think
no
part of
way
the-
you
I think-
can't have gay marriage.
I think part of the fallout is voyeurism is way up.
But do we have, is there anything that we can point to and say, hey, look, this was the law, this was passed, and this is what's happened?
They're starting to document. I mean, the law went into effect essentially October of last year, so it's
under a year old.
Under a year old. But one of the things that we are seeing is voyeurism is on the rise because there is a hesitation for law enforcement and people in stores to question or bother anybody that's in a restroom because that person who questions them can be charged with a civil rights violation. There were amendments that would have exempted police who are acting in good faith, responding to a call, business owner calls and says, I have a situation in my restroom. A police officer responds. He's acting in good faith, investigating a situation. They shot that down. So if he's not careful about what he says and does, he'll be slapped with a civil rights violation and a fine.
Sure.
We had a situation like that in a women's shelter in the city of Boston. There was a man in the women's shelter, and if you're in a situation where going to a battered women's shelter, do you really want men around?
Yeah, that seems like the whole thing just is messed up. I got an email from Tom I just want to throw in there. The people who believe in sanctuary cities are the people they support going to live in their neighborhood. I don't quite know if you worded that the way you wanted to. I think I get what you mean.
I think
Yeah.
what he's getting to, and actually there was a great article, it was a couple months ago that we posted on our Facebook page about some of these places that are enacting these sanctuary policies that aren't exactly affordable for illegal immigrants, places like Concord and Newton, and they can kind of feel, they can pat themselves on the back and they can get some liberal kudos about, oh, look at how
Right.
progressive we are. But they're not actually going to have to deal with crime or the impact of kids on the school system or
right.
any of the other things that go along with a place like Somerville that's a sanctuary municipality. If you're in Concord and it's a little bit different. And I think that's
Yes.
probably what the person that emailed is trying to get at.
Yeah,
So,
I think so. Tom,
Yeah.
thanks for the email. And on this whole, I mean, I don't get this. I get the identify as, I want to identify as who I am, right? So I'm a constitutional, conservative kind of guy. So according to the Constitution, I mean, I want to live by those laws. So why can't I? I don't think that you can ever end that conversation.
right, but you can't change reality, and you shouldn't be able to force me to have to call you a constitutional conservative if I disagree. And I think that
Right.
gets to another part of this, and that we're sort of forcing people to go against their conscience and affirm somebody's reality that they don't think is true. I mean, what's next? Should I say I have a right to identify as Asian? I have a right to identify as 12 and sit in a high school classroom all day.
I mean, it won't
At
stop.
what
It doesn't
point do you
have to
say
stop. It
that
doesn't
this
have to
isn't
stop.
okay,
I
and
get,
that people don't choose their own facts, that they don't choose their own
I guess
reality.
the reason I like to bring up, what has been going on with it is I remember when the gay marriage thing was coming about, and it was taking foot in the country, and people were like up in arms about this, and they were just so mad. And I said, but let's look at it politically, right? Marriage is a religious act. That's what it is. It's a religious act. Now, I don't think that anyone should be able to force a priest or a rabbi or a imam or anybody to
Yeah.
do anything they don't want to do. But, Chanel, there is one thing. The government in the United States gives benefits to people that perform this religious practice. First of all, that in and of itself, there should be a tax break because I'm married is technically unconstitutional. Why would I get a tax break because I followed a religious practice? Somebody goes and gets bar mitzvahed. They don't get a tax break. Somebody goes and gets confirmed. Should they have a different tax status because they were confirmed? So when I see two guys or two women that want to get married, for example, they want to get married. They know they love each other, right? They know they do. Whether you agree or I agree or disagree is really irrelevant. It doesn't matter. They're their own people. They're free people. They live in the United States of America. You want to go love each other, go love each other. Have a great time. It's really not my place to tell you who you're going to love and who you're not going to love. But they don't get the same rights that you get because they can't take place and have that religious ceremony. So in my opinion,
Well,
at the
they
beginning...
can, just not with a member of the same sex.
Well, exactly. So what you're doing is you're taking a percentage of Americans and you're saying that you are not allowed to do this religious thing, so you don't get these benefits. But you can do this, and you're going to go ahead and you're going to get those same benefits. To me, that's bogus. That doesn't add up because that says to me that we can just pick and choose religiously what we like and then assign benefits to it. And those benefits aren't just in taxes, but they're in some cases, let's say next of kin, let's say making medical decisions. You've got someone that's gay. They're estranged from their family. Their mother is alive.
You can do
I
all
mean,
kinds of contractual
you
things,
abs-
power of attorney, all of
you
that
can.
to set all of those things
It doesn't
up.
have to be called marriage.
Yeah, right.
But in our society, that's what we call it. So if the government and the feds had just stepped in and just said, look, states, this is the deal. We all give benefits to people that want to have this basic contract. Now, one is religious. Here's one that is not religious. But you can't exclude X% of the population from a benefit that the government gives because they want to love another guy or another girl. I don't see how that jives in any way, shape, or form. You know, think about what founding father would say, and I know why they did the tax breaks for marriage. I get it. They were growing the country.
But
do you
I
rea-
also think that there are societal goods that they're trying to advance, and this goes back to the earlier conversation, about sanctuary cities, in that this is what government does. It passes laws to encourage behavior, and it does it with tax breaks. It does it with sending funds or withholding funds or whatever. And I think that marriage has a lot of well-documented good outcomes for society. The biggest predictors of, whether a kid is going to do okay at school versus a kid that's going to end up in jail are his parents married, and, is it a stable two-parent family raising, and it's well documented going all the way back to, actually this was something Patrick Moynihan, who was a Democrat, talked about with, the divorce rate and things of that nature. And so to sort of say that, okay, well, we are going to, sort of ignore that there's all this history and the current structure of the laws related to marriage is a tough thing for people to do. I don't think that you can kind of put the genie back in the bottle and go back however many hundreds of years and say, okay, well, we're just going to pretend none of this is like this, and we're going to go with a system that's different.
Well, but if it's flawed in the beginning, Chanel, and the flaw is that they never should have given government favor to a group of people
but they
that
did.
followed right. So they did. So
So-
now it's 2017, and somebody says, well, why don't we just give that government favor to everybody? I mean, so let me ask you this question, and you allude to, to direction and things of this nature, and maybe that's the whole thing. The religion believes that being gay is wrong, it's bad, and we shouldn't be that way. I'm not governed, though,
every
by a
religion.
Bible.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not governed by a Bible, though. I can govern myself by a Bible. It's my choice, and many of us do. But I'm not governed by the Old or the New Testament. I'm governed by the Constitution.
Right.
And it does say in there the same basis that people are pro-life, because everybody's equal. Everybody has a right to life, right? Everybody's equal. The Constitution is intact as it is. So if everybody's equal, right? And I know that, let's say, black people weren't considered equal, but black people, unfortunately, as disgusting as it is, weren't considered to be human as they were. They really did not consider that when they wrote this. So when they said all men are created equal, they didn't think of black people as men. That's disgusting. That's wrong.
Well, I think some of them certainly did.
Absolutely, some of them did. No, absolutely, some of them did.
All of our
But-
founding fathers as
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But let's just say that more did own slaves that didn't.
didn't
But,
mean that they didn't regard them as
right,
people.
as people.
Which
So
is horrific in itself.
I don't know that they would think, a founding father would think that a black person should have a right to vote any more than they would think that their wife had a right to vote. I just think that there was a different mindset at the time, and that's what it was. But things change. Women can vote. We shouldn't exclude people based in it's just
And
my
the Constitution
opinion.
has a process for this that I think is also that, one of the things that got trampled all over in the process of the whole gay marriage debate, and that, it shouldn't be decided by courts, it should be decided by people. And, it's unfortunate that we never got the opportunity to vote on it here in Massachusetts, and that the Supreme Court took it out of the hands of, many states and decided they didn't want it to be the law of their state. And so, the latest polls still show that a majority of people oppose same-sex marriage. So what do you do about something like that?
What I
And-
would do is very simply what I have said and consistently kind of run around this topic with this is that, so don't call it marriage, but the benefits, the idea that you can automatically get the house, the idea that you automatically can, or that you can list
Yes,
as
you can
certain
have some
beneficiaries,
kind of contract,
that you can,
right.
they have to be able to have the same rights, and I don't believe that it's my spot in the world to decide who's right and who's wrong. I want to live in a free country where people can do what they want. You want to go marry a girl, go ahead and do it. I chose to marry a woman, okay? That's me. But it's if you want to go live your life out with somebody, you know what? I'm going to tell you, there has been no impact, and I will speak for myself, on my life at all, because gay people get married. I've seen nothing happen in my life that was like with this bathroom bill.
Well,
I
think you
see
can,
things
I
that are
think this
going
is
wrong.
the and people frequently say, oh, yeah, there's no connection, but there is a connection in the sense that, there's this sort of, you got to accept this, and now you got to accept this, and now you got to accept this, and there is a decrease in tolerance of dissenting viewpoints. The left is just about the most
I won't disagree with you there.
intolerant and aggressive. There was a person that was assaulted at one of our fundraisers by a random transgender person who actually made the argument that it was okay to assault him and steal his property because he didn't affirm him, doesn't affirm the idea that he's transgendered. Now, how is that thinking okay?
Well, I don't think it's thinking okay, but I think that guy's out of his damn mind.
Right,
I don't
but-
think that
but
he
I-
speaks
but-
for the transgender community. Though.
I don't know.
I mean, any more than
I
what about the
think-
people that went and started busting up Hillary things, and rallies and stuff? Were those
No,
representative of
think
Trump
they,
people?
No, I don't think they
No,
were.
so I don't think that I mean, I can't anyway. It's
But I
it's
see
always,
that more and
it's,
more
you know,
violence on the left, and more
Oh,
excuses
absolutely.
that
They're very
it's
violent
okay
people.
because we disagree with you, and your
That I
viewpoint,
agree with 100%.
because it's not our viewpoint, needs to be silenced, and this is entirely part of that. Because if I were to go and work at a corporation and I were to have a transgender colleague, I would have to call them by what they identify as, rather
Mm-hmm.
than what I believe they are. And so now I am being forced by government to affirm a falsehood, essentially, in my mind.
Well, in your
and-
mind, right?
yeah.
But you're being forced to affirm a falsehood. I don't know if I understand what that means. If I
Well,
say to
from
you,
my
hey,
perspective,
look, you're going to call me
your
Nancy,
ge-
okay?
Gender is in your is in your DNA. It's in your chromosomes, and that's where it's coming from. And so if you say no, I have a right to
But what
to
would
say
you call?
my
Why
opinion
wouldn't you
is based
just?
on
But why
science.
wouldn't you just call them their name?
Yeah, fine.
Right, so you just
Right,
call them
but-
their name,
but
so that's
not-
their name.
If you use the wrong pronoun, you can get in big trouble.
Well,
And
you
I think
can,
that
and that's wrong. See, that I
is-
agree with you. I don't
that's
think this should be
ridiculous.
punitive.
Yeah,
to
well, that's
anybody.
what it is. That's what all
Right?
this
No, I don't
is.
think that anybody should be
and
punitive
it has to
to
do with
anybody
this idea that was the same thing with all these safe spaces, and that some discourse
That's
isn't
funny.
okay anymore. And
No, there should be debate.
I am a firm believer that you should be able to have disagreements and argue your point all the livelong day. And if it's an unpopular viewpoint, it's an unpopular viewpoint, and people should be allowed to decide. And government
Absolutely.
shouldn't be in there saying, no, you're going to affirm his viewpoint. And you business owner, you're going to affirm his viewpoint over here, and customers, you're going to have to affirm him over here. Nobody should be
Yeah, but I
required
don't.
to do any
But
of
I
that.
don't. I mean, if I walk by somebody, right, which in my course of travels, I happen to see a person that is a guy. He's obviously a guy. He dresses as a woman, but he looks like a guy dressed as a woman. That's what he looks like. He's just some other person there. I don't go up to him and say, "Hey, man," or I don't go
No,
up to
you
him and
shouldn't.
say,
I don't think you
"Hey,
should.
hey, girl," or I don't.
But he shouldn't
say
go up
anything.
to you and say, call me she. You should be like, dude, I don't feel like doing that, and I shouldn't have to.
No, I guess you shouldn't have to. See, well, I agree with you. All knives have to cut both ways.
Right.
But there should, and the bathroom
And
thing.
I think that you can resolve many of these situations simply by not having any kind of interaction if you don't want to. It's that they're not looking for being ignored. They're looking for affirmation. Is what all of this is about. Is that the left is looking not for you to tolerate them. They are looking for you to affirm them. They are looking for to use the force
So-
of government
so
to
what do
make
we do
people
then?
agree with their ideas.
What do we do
regardless
then?
of the issue? And this doesn't just apply. It applies to everything with what we started out with in Coulter, all the way to things like the bathroom law, and
Sure.
and that it's not illegal to be illegal.
Right.
Well,
No.
yes, it is.
I
You're not
think-
entitled
right,
to your
no,
own
right.
reality.
I think it's illegal to be
Be
illegal.
illegal.
I'm gonna vote with you guys on the bathroom bill because I don't like that idea that that the ability for abuse is huge.
Mara
But-
Healy
but-
gets to decide the law in terms of our
Yeah,
gun rights. I mean,
but the
you're
gay
not
marriage
entitled
kinda
to your
thing-
own reality.
No,
You
you're
should
not
be
entitled to any of that
constrained
stuff.
by like, so.
No, I
yeah.
think that there's got to be a real push, and we got probably 30 seconds,
Oh,
but
no,
I think
okay.
there's got to be a real push in this country for everybody's got to get over themselves. Okay, because you know what, you're right. I agree with you. Just because you want to be a girl doesn't mean that I got to get all excited about it. Okay, I don't have to get excited about it. But I do think that if you want to be a girl, if you want to, then go ahead and do that. And I think that there's got to be some kind of safeguards in there so that we don't, a hate is hate, and hate crimes are hate crimes, and we shouldn't put up with them. It shouldn't matter if it's because someone's, black or Jewish or Muslim, or they're gay, or they're
conservative or Christian,
conservative,
or-
right, or Christian, or any of that stuff. So there's got to be, I think, in this debate, some middle ground that everybody can get to, because it's really not just about.
And government isn't the answer.
No, government's never the answer.
The
All
more
right.
we involve government. which
We're
is
way out of
what
time,
this is.
unfortunately, Chanel, but you live local, so I invite you to come back anytime you'd like. I
okay.
love to debate out the issues, and it's amazing. Two conservatives can debate. They may disagree, but I guarantee you there will be no fist fighting when we get off the air tonight.
No, absolutely not.
So thanks for coming.
Thank you
I
so
really
much
do
for having
appreciate
me.
it.
I
We're going to have you
appreciate it.
back again. Good luck
Okay,
with all your
great.
initiatives. Keep us
Thank
posted.
you.
If you want information on Renew Mass Coalition,
www.renewmacoalition.org.
email me at Tim or
we're on
Gary, and I can
Facebook.
send you the
We're on
link.
Facebook, yeah.
They're Facebookers and all that. All right,
Yeah.
let's make way. 3 on 11 comes up now.